Tell me what issues are at the top of your mind heading into this election.
I would say Medicare, Medicaid. Our son's on Social Security. He was diagnosed with autism, and we're having the runaround of trying to get therapies covered and stuff like that. He is not getting anything for the month because we make too much money. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but we have to do one income with my husband or with my son's schedule and everything.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of hard financially, and I'm trying to figure out, the education, the Social Security, all that is a loophole, and I wish it was better and not so hard to understand.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Do you think the government should be able to provide at least a bare minimum level of medical care for people?
To an extent, if you have a disability, yes. I don't think anybody should get a free ride by any means. Like I said, we have insurance, but it is expensive. Yeah. I don't know.
You don't know? So even if it would come at no cost to taxpayers and people like your kid would have a better quality of life, don't you think the government should be able to step in and at least provide some level of health care?
Compensation.
To a degree.
To a degree?
To a degree. I don't think 100% because it has come from somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, someone has to pay it, but being middle class, I don't think people should get free rides either. If you're able to do things, I think you should be out there doing it.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I'm unable with his schedule and his therapy and all that, so.
I kind of feel like both my parents are veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, they paid into this system a long time and then passed
Served our
too
country.
early and too soon. And I paid into it since I was old enough to work. And so I kind of feel like, well, if I'm not using it, I wish some of it could be shared with my family who needs it.
Yep.
And then, like I said, I'm fully retired now. On Social Security, I get like $860 a month.
Yeah.
Which is impossible to live on if you aren't prepared or saved for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the people are doing it.
Yeah. See, I don't think we should have full, I don't like socialism. It's not feasible, but at the same time, there has to be some level of health care available to people who can't afford it. I mean, there are a lot of middle or lower class people.
Capable of contributing.
Yeah.
I have no problem helping out people who need help.
And it's like
you should try if you can.
It's like America is the richest country in the world, and it's almost embarrassing sometimes how poor our healthcare system can be and how badly it screws over well-meaning people,
Yeah, it's crazy how pharmaceutical runs everything.
Trump made claims of widespread massive voter fraud, top down in all of these states, but then he brought all of these different cases to courts. He brought 60 plus cases. Half of them were shot down on evidentiary reasons. A lot of them were shot down based on standing. Well, there were like 15 shot down on standing, but the reason that is because they were looking for crazy remedies, like basically flipping all of the votes of one state. A lot of these were Republican-appointed judges from Donald Trump. So does that ever worry you when all of this happens?
It always worries me when justice isn't justice.
Yeah.
And the thing is they're afraid also. I mean, look, we had, what happened to our Supreme Court judges is Gorsuch, and I can't remember his other name at the moment. They've been threatened at their homes. That's against the law, but they allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Why? People are afraid. And and that stops from real Americanism. When my parents migrated to this country, my dad said, no more German, we speak English, we are going to be American, and we became Americans as soon as we possibly could. What happens today? I'm watching Spanish TV on my regular TV. I'm hearing all these other things. Every box I open up has got 4 or 5 different languages on it.
Did you see his mugshot?
Yes.
What did you think of the mugshot?
Great.
You love the mugshot?
Great. Why not?
Well, and then when the
She watched the deposition or whatever
the
it was.
deposition and stuff, and I just love it.
Same answer.
Yeah.
Same answer. And all that.
What do you think about people who say conservatives should be the party of law and order, and their leading figure right now is being arrested?
I think it's crap.
So why do you think all of Trump's allies, if you look at his own Attorney General, Bill Barr, even Mike Pence...
He's come around a little bit, though.
Bill Barr, he says he's going to vote for Trump, but he also said after the election there was no evidence of voter fraud. And then,
That's not true. And you know what, again, what he was presented perhaps when he was in office, because when he's in office, he doesn't go and get that information by himself. Somebody hands him information.
well, all
And
these...
you got the Peter Strzok's and those kind of guys. What are they doing? They're feeding him this stuff. And you know what? I can't believe he watches the news. I don't watch regular news. I don't watch any of those CNN.
Where's your major news source right now?
I check in on the regular TVs long enough to turn them
That's
off
fair.
because they get me mad.
Yeah.
But I have Newsmax, Newsmax 2, OAN, OAN Plus. I go to America's First Choice, the first, and I have, and then I do Tucker Carlson. I love Tucker Carlson.
So can I ask you, what did you think about January 6th?
It was a bunch of knuckleheads getting out of control. I don't think it was an insurrection at all.
Do you know what they were doing inside the Capitol that day?
Stupid stuff.
Like, do you know what Mike Pence was trying to do, though? What they were there to do?
Oh yeah, they were there to stop the Congress from voting on the election results.
Exactly. So does it kind of scare you, though, when, like, we have people, I know they're a bunch of knuckleheads and they didn't really get too far, but they did try to stop our peaceful transfer of power. Actually, for the first time in American history, the peaceful transfer of power was delayed by multiple hours. Can you see the argument for why that's a little bit unprecedented and scary?
Yeah, it was dumb. There's just some people doing dumb things. I mean, I don't agree with it, but it wasn't an insurrection.
Yeah, so you don't think Trump has anything to do with it either? Like his rhetoric leading up to it, you can't see how it contributed at all?
No, I don't think he encouraged it. I mean, he said peaceful, not breaking into the Capitol. That's not what he wanted.
He said peaceful, but then he spent the months prior to that basically undermining our institutions and creating this atmosphere of distrust, saying there was widespread election fraud. And we can agree or disagree, but when then he holds a rally minutes away from them certifying and people go in there and try to stop that, I just feel like you can connect the dots perfectly almost.
You could. I mean, you could also see the other side, and that it was just people acting on their own. And that was dumb what they did, but it wasn't an insurrection.
I think he educated the people on what was going on, and the people chose what to do next.
So do you think Mike Pence was justified in certifying the results of the election on January 6th a few years back?
You know, there's always people who are whispering in your ears telling you what to do and what not to do. And I think what happened at that moment in time with the volatility of everything, people were whispering in his ears that if you don't do this, this is going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Yeah. I think Mike Pence is a nice guy, but I don't think he has. Not going to use the word.
Balls?
Yeah, that one. I think he's a nice guy, but when you get down to the tough stuff, you can't let what people are going to try and push you into. You got to use your own set of what's happening.
Can you see where I'm coming from when, okay, so Donald Trump makes these claims of widespread voter fraud, but then can you see where I'm coming from when, from my point of view, all the courts disagree, Mike Pence disagrees, his own attorney general disagrees, the people that he appointed in key positions all say, hey man, you got to stop spreading these lies about massive voter fraud. This all happened.
Not lies. That's the problem. We're allowing people to tell us it's lies, and it's not lies. You know, when Walker lost at the post office, they found like 2 or 3 big boxes of votes that got never tallied. And on top of that, Gableman here in Wisconsin, he came out and he did a complete study. And Robin Voss, who should be impeached and kicked out, he did not take Gableman's recommendations because he's afraid of what the electorate's going to do to him. Well, guess what? The electorates are tired of him and of, is it Megan Fox or what's her name? Fox? The woman who had did the voting, allowed the Zucker boxes in. You see, the thing is, the squeaky wheel does get it. But here's the problem. The squeaky wheel doesn't have to, they don't have a whole lot of people involved. But they're so squeaky that people listen because we don't want confrontation. Yeah. We are in a state right now where we need confrontation. Gableman said we had massive fraud, massive wrong things going on, and they wouldn't listen to him.
But then when he brought that to the courts, they looked at all of this footage, all of the evidence, and they said, hey man, there's not enough fraud. So from my point of view, it's like Donald Trump on his side, he has people like Rudy Giuliani or Mike Lindell, who do you see them as credible at all?
I love Mike Lindell.
Really?
I think he is the salt of the earth. This is a man who went through hell with drug addiction and everything else, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, got back on track, and he is now understanding how important it is to have a free country and free speech, because he might not have survived without it. Mike Lindell, I know a lot of people want to make fun of him, but it's not fair. If you've been through the dredges of hell of drug addiction and you come out of it and you are now running big company with giving lots of people jobs, giving lots of people product, keeping the economy going. Yep. And he's donated endless amounts of money to not just Trump. I think he's a guy that would pick what the right side is. in this case, for him is Trump. But
He's basically bankrupted himself trying to get this election fraud
yes,
stuff.
this is what our founding forefathers did. You know how many of our forefathers lost their wealth, their families, their livelihoods to get us to having a country with these kind of constitution, a republic with constitutional rights that we have right now. They sacrificed when everybody else didn't. And that's what we need right now. We need the American people to sacrifice.
So do you think, I agree that we shouldn't make fun of people's drug addictions. Can you apply that to Hunter Biden when people try to make fun of his drug addiction?
His addiction is a little bit different.
How so?
He's living off of daddy. He's living off of Chinese money. He's living off of Hungarian money. And he's broken the laws literally by having a gun when he was drug addicted.
Yeah.
And I don't like seeing him with all the prostitutes in bed in his underwear. And he's thinking I also don't like the fact that it seems that there's pedophilia going on somewhere in that family.
I like Alex Jones. He's usually correct on most of the conspiracy. They're not everyone, but probably most of them.
What's your favorite Alex Jones conspiracy?
9/11 was an inside job.
You think so?
Definitely. And Trump was on video on the day of 9/11 pointing to the towers, and he said, "I've built a lot of buildings and they do not fall down like that from a fire or an airplane." Mm-hmm. Donald Trump said that on live television on 9/11.
He also said, "My building is now the tallest in New York." Did you hear that one too?
I don't remember that one, but he did say it a second time, and I'm pretty sure that Trump knows all about this. It's just that he's waiting for the right time to do it, to come out. That's one of the reasons why he doesn't like Bush and Cheney, because he knows they were in on it. Anybody else was facing these charges, they would be completely destroyed. Like Rudy Giuliani, he's being sued for like over $1 million for legal fees. But Trump is a billionaire, and he's so popular that it's going to backfire. This is the most ridiculous prosecution since Galileo 400 years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if he gets convicted, you're still voting for him?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That'll just make his poll numbers go up.
If he's in a jail cell, you're going to vote for him?
Definitely. I'll definitely vote for him.
Really? Despite being the party of law and order?
Well, I'm in favor of law and order, but that's not my main reason. I want less government, and I want a government that works for the people, not against the people.
So what do you think about Trump's plan to strip other agencies of their power and concentrate more power towards the presidency? Have you heard about this Project 2025?
I don't know what that plan is. I have to see the specifics to comment on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think stripping power from different places is good, but just because you strip the power from one place doesn't mean you have to put it back somewhere else. You could just, I would rather have a diffused power where the states have more power. Like with abortion, getting rid of Roe versus Wade, now the states have the power over abortion instead of the federal government.
Sometimes it scares me because a lot of these people, when I talk to them, they'll say, I think we should just abandon Ukraine to Russia. And how I view it is,
Horrible thought.
it's a horrible idea because Russia went on this, you keep mentioning you're German, Russia went on this World War II style invasion where they want to annex territory for themselves. They said, hey, this country is sovereign, we're going to steal this land for ourselves.
Why did we allow them to take the Crimea back when?
2014?
I'm just saying, why did we allow any of that?
I think Obama should have been stronger, but to be fair, during Trump's presidency, they were...
Obama does not want to see our country thrive.
But
And
then-
he's made very clear on that.
To be fair, Trump had 4 years where Russia was occupying Crimea, and he still did nothing. He still didn't
In 4
step
years,
his foot down.
What did Trump all accomplish in 4 years when
Well, you
people
tell
were
me.
stabbing him in the back and everything else? We had energy. We were energy independent. We didn't have inflation. We didn't have a border crisis. How much? And then how many times did he have to get impeached wrongly, and then have it not? Be right. He was fighting many battles and many fronts, and people still think it's not enough.
But then when everybody stabs Trump in the back, at what point do you start to think that Trump just picks people poorly, right? Because he's supposed to be a businessman who appoints the best people, but then he keeps saying, oh, Bill Barr stabbed me in the back. Mike Pence stabbed me in the back for this. Mark Meadows.
I ran a 95 child daycare.
Yeah.
I would sit down and hire people, and they would tell me how great they were and why they would be so great for the job. I learned really quickly. I had to wait and see. I mean, they had the paperwork, but were they really good? And guess what? A lot of times they weren't good because they felt they were smarter and could do better and differently than me. I didn't keep them.
But then as a businesswoman, then the onus is on you to take responsibility at some point. It feels like a lot of times...
I fired them and I hired other people.
But then you look at Trump and what he does is he'll call nicknames, he'll put them on blast on social media. Sometimes it feels like they don't...
That does not bother me.
It doesn't bother you?
No, you know what? It actually creates excitement. It's great for the news medias, right?
What do you think about some of these election interference trials coming up? So the claims are that John Eastman came up with this unconstitutional legal theory to flip the slates of electors, to place false slates of electors in multiple states, and he wanted Mike Pence on January 6th to subvert the will of the American people and not certify the results. That's the first time in American history the peaceful transfer
I
of
thought
power.
once before that there were electors that had to be ready because there's only one day that you can do the elector thing, and because there was a question of the votes, they had to select electors so that if they were turned over, they would be ready to step in. So I don't think that's illegal. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't usurp nothing because they didn't get that far. Had the election been turned over, they were ready to step in.
That case was different. That was in Hawaii, and they had, so the election came down to like 100 votes, and they had a second slate of electors that were duly elected ready just in case. But what happened here is John Eastman prepared multiple slates of electors. They weren't the duly elected slate. They were people who forged their signatures and said they were, and then...
We know of that for sure, the forged signature?
That's why they're getting charged in RICO cases. Yeah, it's a big RICO conspiracy case.
I don't think none of those people forged any signatures anywhere. I think that's, again, more media hype to get things turned around.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. What that first interaction really helped me realize is just how many Americans have been tricked, have been misled into voting against their own interests, because that was a perfectly nice lady who simply needed healthcare for her autistic son. She needed therapy, but she could not afford it. So when I asked her, do you think the government should be able to step in and provide a bare level of healthcare for anybody who needs it, she couldn't really figure it out. She couldn't decide because she's so ideologically captured by the right, and she thinks Democrats are so fundamentally evil that she would never vote blue even if it helped ease all of her problems with her son. And we see this all the time. Lower middle class people voting for Republicans who want to strip away their Social Security, strip away their fundamental rights, and when Democrats just say, hey, we can give you a little bit of health care, they think, no, that is socialism. Other people are being helped. I just personally need help. So it's interesting how people don't really connect the issues until it personally affects them. But I was reading this article while I was editing titled, "In Trump's Hush Money Trial, Prosecutors and Defense Lawyers Are Poised to Make the Final Pitch to Jury." And this article describes how jurors in Donald Trump's hush money trial have the task of deciding his fate on 34 felony counts in the coming days. The prosecution and the defense are both giving their closing arguments, but the interesting part about this article is the distribution bias of the sources. So out of the 50 total news sources covering this story, 9 of them lean left, only 2 of them lean right. I guess right-leaning news sources aren't covering this as much, and 37 of them are center. And each publication is rated by 3 independent news monitoring organizations so they can arrive at an accurate distribution bias for each story that comes out every day. And the interesting part is there is a demonstrable difference between the way the left-leaning outlets cover these stories versus the way the right-leaning outlets cover them. For example, this article about Donald Trump from a left-leaning news source called The Independent is titled, "Trump Sells Off $10 Million Jet to Major Megadonor Amid Soaring Legal Fees." But when you look at the same exact story covered by Breitbart, which is a right-leaning news outlet, they title it, "Donald Trump Sold Private Jet Worth $11 Million to GOP Megadonor." They don't mention the soaring legal fees. They try to spin it for a right-leaning audience. So a website like Ground News, which is the sponsor of today's video, is incredibly helpful when you're trying to sort through all of your different sources, find out which ones are credible, and if you ever want to see what the other side is thinking about a particular story. This helps me a lot for debate prep. If I'm going out there talking to Trump supporters or I'm about to debate Charlie Kirk, it's really helpful to know what the right-leaning people are thinking on a given day. And I think Ground News is an incredibly important tool heading into the 2024 election, especially since we have all of these media outlets competing for the most explosive headlines. It's really nice to have all of your sources laid out cleanly in one spot, and you can tell, are they left-leaning, are they right-leaning, are they center? And all you have to do is click on a given story, then scroll through all of the sources. So right here you can see that PBS NewsHour covered this, the New York Sun covered this, CTV News covered this, and then on the right side of the screen you can see if they lean left, do they lean right? Do they have mixed factuality or do they have high factuality? Then when you actually click on the article, it gives you a more detailed media bias rating for each specific source. Ground News even has a blind spot page where you can find news stories that have little or no reporting by one side of the political spectrum. And the blind spot shows how some of these stories are covered disproportionately by one side. So this story is titled "Trump to Give Very Serious Consideration to Assange Pardon," but 78% of the news sources covering this are right-leaning. So with all of these tools that Ground News provides you, you can have a more thorough understanding of our current political landscape and what's going on any given day. All you have to do is go to ground.news/Adam Mockler. This month I was able to get my viewers, you guys, 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage subscription, which is the tier that I use. The link is in the description. Thank you to Ground News. Thank you guys for watching. I hope everybody has a great day.